Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to one of our first sessions, which is a panel presentation by public universities in the state of Washington. My name is Garrick Ferguson. Let me actually show you my picture so we'll be able to put a face to a voice. So my name is Garrick Ferguson, Director of Teaching and Learning. I actually have two children that went through the Bellevue Public Schools, and I have to say that attending the college conference was probably one of the best things that I did for my children, as well as for myself and my wife, to learn about the college process. What we have for you tonight is a half-hour session. It's being recorded, so you'll be able to watch it later once we put all the links up. And we are going to have our panel introduce themselves, and then we're going to, I have some questions that I'm going to ask the panel, and then as we're going through the panel, if you also have questions, there's a place in the live Q&A where you can put in a question. If the questions are specific to your child and a specific question, we probably won't have time to answer those. But if there's questions about the college process and the application process, that would be broadly applicable to all people, we will most certainly try to add that and include it in our presentation. Other piece that I'd love to also tell you about is with these live events, we have the ability to turn on the closed captions. And so in the bottom right-hand button, you actually will have the ability to click that little gear, and that little gear then will pop up and you can choose what language, and then you can have the closed captions turned on. So those are just two of the pieces that I'd like to tell you about. So let's actually get started. And what I'm going to do is turn my camera off. And we are going to introduce our panel tonight. We have representatives from the University of Washington at Bothell, Central Washington University, Western Washington University, Washington State University, and the University of Washington, Seattle. And so I'm going to actually start with Garrick, and he can introduce himself and tell us a little bit about himself as well as UW Bothell.
Well, thank you, Eric. Hi, everybody. My name is Garrick Sherburne. I am from the University of Washington, Bothell. I'm one of the admissions advisors there, so pleasure to meet you all. A little bit about UW Bothell. We are about like 20 minutes on a good day, without traffic from Bellevue. We're about 6,000 students in total population. We're part of the University of Washington system that has 3 different campuses. There's UW Seattle, UW Tacoma, and UW Bothell. There are going to be different experiences at each campus, so trying to figure out what campus will be a good fit for you will be really helpful in the process. Last thing I want to mention a little bit about our admissions process. We are on the coalition application. It's a platform where you can fill out the application once and apply to multiple schools with that one application. So us and UW Seattle are on that coalition application. We have 2 different deadlines that happen. There's an early action and a regular decision deadline. So we can talk a little bit more about that a little bit later. But yeah, that's a little bit about me. Thanks for having me. I'm going to pass over to Grace now from Central.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Garrick. I really appreciate it. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight. I know it's a little bit different this year, but glad we're still able to make this happen. My name is Grace, and I'm a regional admissions counselor for Central Washington University. What I mean by regional is that I'm actually based in King County. So although the campus itself is located in Central Washington in Ellensburg, I'm located on this side of the mountains. Just a bit about Central. We're a medium-sized public school with a little over 12,000 students. In terms of our admissions process, we are a rolling admission school, meaning that we accept applications all year long. There's not one hard deadline for you to meet, but we do have a priority date of March 1st. And then in terms of modes of application, we have our own application on our website, so we're not affiliated with any other outside organizations to apply. You just go directly to cw.edu and you can apply. And again, it's rolling admission, so you can apply anytime, and it's pretty simple. We do offer guaranteed admission for students above a 3.0 GPA. With that, I'm going to pass it off to Jacob from Western.
All right, happy to be here. Yeah, glad everybody's here with us today. My name is Jacob Jones Poulton. I'm an admissions counselor with Western Washington University. Western is located up in Bellingham, so about an hour and a half north. Yeah, just a little bit about our admissions process. We are similar to Central in that we have our own application. We review holistically, so we're looking not just at your grades, but we really are paying very close attention to your essay. And we are also a rolling admissions university. However, we really do have a deadline on our website for January 31st. So we really are trying to prioritize students applying by January 31st. So yeah, looking forward to your questions and yeah, and really getting to know who's out there tonight. With that, I will pass it over to Carmen.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Carmen Garcia. I am the Regional Admissions Counselor for Washington State University Pullman. So like Grace, I am regionally based on this side of the mountains, although Washington State University is on the east side of the mountains, just 15 minutes outside of Idaho. For those of you who don't know, Washington State is in a traditional rural college town with a medium to large size population. The student population does make up about 2/3 of the city itself. So definitely something to keep in mind when making those college lists and narrowing them down. A little bit about the application process. Again, like Central Washington University, we are not affiliated with any outside organizations. So if students are looking to apply to WSU, they would go directly on our website at apply.wsu.edu. We are on rolling admissions, but we do have a priority deadline. Typically, it is January 31st, but this year, due to the obvious pandemic, we have extended the deadline to March 15th, and that goes for financial aid as well as admissions. We do have assured admission at a 3.6 GPA, and also the 3.6 GPA is the minimum for all our merit-based scholarships. So it's definitely something to take advantage of and to make sure to do before March 15th. And with that being said, last bit.
Actually, Carmen, before you go, just is that picture, how recent was that picture taken in Pullman?
Oh, it was probably from last winter. So I would say yes, winter of 1920.
So you get quite a bit. So you get quite a bit of snow in Pullman.
Yes, so we do get all 4 seasons, extreme seasons. The summers get really hot, the winters get really cold. Springs are hit or miss, depending on how long winter wants to last. And the fall is my absolute favorite in Pullman. But again, with that being said, on to the University of Washington, Seattle.
Okay, Alicia.
Hi. Yeah, sorry, I just had to unmute myself. Hi, everyone. My name is Alicia Ruff. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm a first-gen Husky alumna and admissions counselor for the University of Washington. UW, as many of you guys know, is just right in your backyard in the city of Seattle. We are a large public institution with a little over 31,000 undergraduate students. And we receive around 43 to 45,000 applications annually. And of course, we have over 180 different majors that really focuses on just giving students an extensive network of top faculty, researchers, peers, alumni, and we want to make sure that all of our students are able to participate in research, participate in over 600 study abroad programs, and then of course internships as well. The UW is like UW Bothell. We house our one and only application on the coalition application. So if you're looking to apply to UW and UW Bothell, make sure you are setting up your accounts now to get yourself situated to submit that your senior year. And then our one and only deadline is November 15th. So we don't participate in early action like some other schools do. So just remember, it's a pretty early deadline, November 15th. That's when you'll need to submit your application for general admissions. All decisions will go out sometime between March 1st and 15th, but no later than the end of day of March 15th. So one set application deadline and one period for admissions decisions. Like many other schools, we review all applications holistically. The leading I guess, section that we'll be looking at is going to be your academic preparation performance. So everything you've accomplished inside of the classroom, your overall academic rigor, and whether or not you're going above those college academic distribution requirements. And the second part of the holistic review is going to be your personal achievements and characteristics. So everything you've accomplished outside of the classroom. So this is really going to be your time to tell us more in your writing about your passions, what you like to do, how COVID might have affected you this past year. It's been a year already. It's crazy. But we want to learn more about just who you are as an individual in those sections. We're definitely going to dive deeper through the Q&A, but that's just a broad overall overview of the UW.
Great. Well, thank you. Thank you so much, panelists. So what I was going to do, and I hope the format for tonight is what we will do is my first question to the whole panel is talking about the academic strength of the transcript and how important is it. And kind of in that detail of the transcript, AP versus core classes, is there a specific number that you're looking for at your universities? And yeah, so is there a specific number we need to take? So talk about the transcript a little bit. Who would like to maybe start with that one?
I can go first. I'm happy to chat. Just in general, when it comes to applying to colleges, and I think I say this generally for everyone, is that there's not a specific number per se, but the more AP classes on a transcript, the better of a student that will consider you. But we do want to preface that saying that we want to see you thrive in these classes. We would hate for you to take these AP courses and then for you to have a really hard time in them and struggle and it be apparent in the grades that you receive in these courses when we know that you could have done great in the regular curriculum too. So my biggest advice is just, if you're going to take AP classes, make sure you're prepared for them. Make sure that you're doing well in the regular curriculum before you kind of hop onto those rigorous opportunities. And if you feel like you can take more on, absolutely do it. It's a great way to get a taste of what the college rigor is like, but don't do it just because you think having a full load of AP classes is going to look marvelous on your college transcripts. Only do it if you know that you're really ready for it.
And so actually that's a good place that you just ended, because there was a question that just came in that asked if a student takes an AP class and gets an A in them but doesn't take the AP test, will that class that they take play a positive role in admissions? And so I think the answer is yes, because it will show your grade for the class in that AP course, but it's not going to, you don't have the AP test, which would be to give you some college credit. But yes, it absolutely would help your transcript.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Eric. Right on point. If you don't take the AP test, it's not like we see those scores at all when you're applying for admissions. That just benefits you to earn actual college credit when you take those tests. Taking the class alone just assists with the college admissions process, but taking the test itself will just allow you to earn college credit when you're ready to transfer or when you're ready to transition to your first year in college. That way you come in with a couple of classes already completed.
Great, thank you so much, Grace.
Yeah.
Another question that kind of came in also was, is an IB, how do you compare IB to an AP class? Maybe I'll let somebody else other than Grace. Who'd like to try to?
I will say that Running Star, AP, IB, they're all on an equal scale, seen equally the same as a student taking on the challenge of academic rigor. So it really just depends on the student's preference where they think they would be a better student. Some students are better Running Start students versus some students are better AP. I know some schools offer AP versus IB. So it really just depends on the student style of learning. But either way, whichever one that they take, it's going to be a good look, and definitely favor them if they do successfully in that class.
Great, thank you so much, Carmen. Anything? I think we kind of hit the transcript. So let's actually go to the next topic, which is talking a little bit about the essay questions. What are you looking for? How are the essays and supplements used? Can you tell if a student had a lot of help writing their essay? Does it matter if they did have help? How important are the short answer questions to my application review? Who'd like to start with that one?
I'll go ahead and get started on this one. But for Bothell, we don't have any short answers, so maybe someone else that I know has a short answer in here can hop on after that. But the essay piece is a huge part of the application. I think it's often overlooked because students assume, oh, if I have the specific GPA, I will get in or get out depending on that GPA. And truly, that's not how it works. Holistic review is a process where we look at multiple factors making an admissions decision. And when it comes to your application essay, that is how we get to know you as a student. Obviously, like your academic rigor, the grades you've been receiving, those will tell us how you are doing academically. But as Alicia had mentioned earlier, there's a whole other piece of the application, which is who you are as an individual. So in the application essay, I love that part because I get to really know who a student is. And so I really value that as your opportunity to tell us your story, make it unique for yourself. You know, we want to hear about who you are, and that is where your essay is really your opportunity. To answer the question, can we tell if they got a lot of help? I mean, sometimes. I'd say the most important thing is not to write what you think we want to hear, if that makes sense. And so, you know, if we think you were impressed by big words or we're impressed by like a tragic story or anything like that, don't go in that direction. Literally write from your heart. I think that is the best advice I give somebody because if it's not authentic to who you are, then it's not going to really demonstrate who you are as an individual and who you'll be in college either. So really just speak from within. And don't try to predict what's going to impress us. Just tell us who you are, because that's going to be most important there. Does anybody want to talk about short answers for me?
I do kind of want to add to that. So WSU, we don't require an essay for the admissions application. So that's something definitely to keep in mind when you are applying to different schools in general. Obviously, all schools are going to kind of have the same requirements, but some are a little different. So definitely make sure to keep that in mind when looking up, to make sure to look up each school's requirements. But we do require short responses for the scholarship application. So if you do want free money and if you are heavily considering WSU, then the short responses are really important just because that's how you'll be eligible for those scholarships and how those awards will be able to get to know you and see if you're going to be a great candidate.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Is it okay if I add something?
Absolutely.
Okay, so for the UW, we're gonna, like Garrick was stating, we're definitely gonna be looking at your primary personal statement, but we do have the short response statement on our end as well, and that is definitely an important factor, especially when we're looking at your application holistically. It's not an optional essay, it is required, and it allows for us to get a sense of what communities the students are a part of. So if you have a network or community that you're a part of in high school, or maybe you are working or you have a really strong connection with your family and your community outside of high school, we want to hear more about those experiences and how that's affected you, and really how you kind of fit into that larger piece. So I would try to separate the two. Your personal statement, it's pretty open-ended as far as our question that we pose. So if you decide that you really want to talk about something specific in the personal statement, maybe you want to elaborate on something that you achieved that you're just really proud of and you grew from that, you can put that into your personal statement. But for the community statement, it allows us to look at that larger picture, that bigger idea, and again, just to understand what communities you're a part of and how that's created the person who you are today.
How many of your schools and universities use the Common App? Are you all?
I don't think any of us use the Common application.
Okay, so so then my next question is that the question that came in is, what is the process when you pick up an application? What do you look for first? When you're reviewing,
yeah. Oh yeah, I can jump in there. At least for Western, you know, it's a whole list of things I'm looking for. You know, of course, you know, I'm looking, of course, to see what kind of things the student's been involved with. I think one of the things that's most important to me when it comes to an essay is, you know, like others have said, you know, I'm looking for a community. I'm looking for ways that people are authentically bringing themselves to the application. What are they most excited about with going to a university? So I'm really paying attention to that and seeing just how they've shown up in their, you know, in their extracurricular experiences or things that they've done in the community or ways that they've been a part of supporting their family. Those are the things I'm really paying a lot of attention to in the essay, just these elements of how people are supporting others and thinking more in terms of the broader community.
Excellent, thank you. Carrie, are you seeing any questions that kind of pertain to still the essay question?
Nope.
Okay, so we'll move on to our next question or topic area. SAT and ACT scores, how much emphasis is placed on these in the admissions process?
I could go again.
Okay.
Okay, so this is actually really exciting. I love the changes that colleges across the nation have been making with just, you know, allowing students to have that flexibility. If you can't get in and take an SAT, it's not a requirement. We're not looking at it. And so at the University of Washington, what that means is we're genuinely not looking at your scores that you submit to us. So it's great if you were able to get sat into a testing center and received your score safely and soundly. But there are many students across the world who are not able to take the SAT or ACT. So being starting this past year and moving forward, I don't foresee us making any changes to that non-requirement that we have. But technically, we consider ourselves test optional. While we won't be reviewing your test scores in the actual holistic review, it might come into play for students who are waitlisted. So if let's say you're on the cusp of the waitlist and we're, you know, trying to decide if we want to admit you, then we might go in and look to see if you've submitted any test scores to use. And if we do use them, we'll always notify you and ask you to submit official scores, but it's not going to make any difference in your decision of whether or not you're admitted, waitlisted, and denied. So your decision of being admitted the SAT had no factor in that, just to let you know. And I'm sure it's probably similar to across colleges, but I'll let everyone else speak for their institutions.
Anybody else eager to speak? Okay, I'm going to keep moving because we actually only have 8 minutes, 6 minutes, 8 minutes left before we actually have to finish our first round of this panel. So letters of recommendation. Who should be writing the letters? And how many letters do you guys want?
I'll say that WCU does not ask or require letters of recommendation, and I'll probably say that's probably the same case for, if not all the schools here. The only time you will know if we request it, we will put it on your student account or your student portal. And if we do request it, we ask them to be from a core teacher that can speak to your academic abilities. But if we don't ask for it, do not submit one.
So do I hear you saying less is sometimes more?
Yes.
Okay, really good point there. Let's extracurricular. How much weight do you put on having people that are in leadership activities or community service? How much does that help on the application process?
I think that it helps a lot, especially for those of us who are trying to figure out different types of scholarships that we end up awarding later on in the season. Because I know, at least in our office, you know, there are scholarships that are out there specifically for folks that have been really involved in the community and everything. So if we're seeing a lot of involvement It, of course, is really a lot easier to advocate for somebody in the admissions process itself, just getting in the door. But for scholarships as well, it does carry a lot of weight.
Thank you.
And then one thing I want to mention about the activities log, I'm sure it's different from college here, so just know that this might be a UW exclusive thing. But we obviously know because of COVID and the lasting effects of COVID, the look of extracurriculars is going to look really different. So obviously there's not going to be as many opportunities available, and that's okay. We're not looking for you to, risk your personal safety or anything to participate in activities to look good on an application. With this, I always try to encourage people to look beyond school. So obviously school activities like sports and clubs are great, but there's leadership in other ways, like maybe you're working part-time, maybe you have home responsibilities, maybe you're passionate. I read an application recently where students running his own business, fantastic. And so, definitely think of other activities beyond just the ones you do exclusively for school, and just know that it's okay that you might not have a lot because of the effects of COVID, and that's totally fine too.
Thank you. Let's, how is diversity valued in the applicant pool of the admissions process? Any takers?
I can jump in here. Go ahead.
I don't know who was speaking, but go ahead and jump in.
Okay, we'll let Jacob start, and then Alicia, you'll be able to go next.
Okay.
At least as far as Western is concerned, we understand that people are coming from a lot of different backgrounds and a lot of different lived experiences. So this might be, there's just an infinite ways that this can look. So we're not looking for a particular type of experience or a particular type of background, but we're looking for folks that are coming in with an eye toward inclusivity, toward helping others and creating environments where people are safe to really be their authentic selves. And like I said, this can mean a student can really show this in a lot of different ways. They can talk about just their family experience and their upbringing, where they come from. It might be different community groups that they're involved with. It might be different clubs, or really a lot of other things. But at the end of the day, it's really just about how is a student really, what kind of story are they bringing to our campus, and how are they wanting to share that with others?
Wow, that was so well said. I mean, I agree with all those factors. It's the beauty of holistic review. That's why so many schools have a holistic review process, because we genuinely want to take into account everything outside, especially outside of academics, and this in the personal statement and the short response answers, even in the additional comment section that might not be required. It's really important for you to tell us more about who you are, about anything you can add, especially things that we won't necessarily be able to catch just looking at your academics. So Jacob, that was so well said.
Real quick, we have just time for a couple more. So Running Start. How is Running Start viewed in the admissions process?
I can answer this. Carmen actually pointed to this earlier when she was talking about the difference between AP, IB, and Running Start. We look at them all the same. They all count as college rigor. The only difference is that Running Start is actual college credit. So to keep in mind that when you take Running Start classes, those grades that you receive from those courses are on your college transcript forever. So that's something that you kind of want to be prepared for. But in terms of the admissions process, it's good. AP, IB, Running Start, they're all good. I also saw a question in the Q&A box, which I think is a great question. Somebody asked about how Running Start would look for out-of-state schools. In general, Running Start is a better suit for students looking to apply to public schools or schools within in-state. Just because all of us have an agreement with the local two-year colleges in the state of Washington that kind of help the transfer process and the credit process. Whereas if you apply to an out-of-state school, there's no guarantee that those credits will transfer over. So you'll also just kind of want to keep that in mind when you're applying to out-of-state schools and how they take those credits. But in general, Running Start is great.
Great. And so the final, we're just out of time, but the final question that I have here, that it's that I heard that the first cut is GPA. Is that true? And then also thinking about GPA, do you calculate a weighted GPA, or are you just a straight GPA off of the transcript? For everybody, I guess.
Yeah, I can go first. Sorry, I have to rethink this. We do unweighted GPA. So we don't take in, like, we don't up your GPA because you're taking those extra classes. And I'm not sure exactly by what the person means by cut, but CW does, there's like a different type of cut, meaning like we have a standard for guaranteed admission. So as long as you have a 3.0 GPA or above, then you have guaranteed admission to the university, but that's not exactly cut. That's more of like a you're in kind of thing. So yeah, that's true for CW. Okay. Anyone else want to kind of answer that as kind of final notes as far as just GPA in the process?
Yeah, I can add on to that. So we'll see the GPA, but we know that's not the full story. That's why it's a holistic review across the board with all the schools. We see the GPA, and then we'll also see your grade trends from freshman year up until your junior year, or first semester senior year, if that's what you submitted. And we see those grade trends, and then from there, we make a decision on how we want to move, if we want to put more weight on your essay, or if you didn't submit your first semester senior year grades, then we'll ask for them. So although the cumulative GPA will be one number, we'll look at everything else to see how admissible you are, because at the end of the day, we are admissions. We do want to admit you. We want to give you every chance. So it is a full holistic review.
Well, I know we're actually 2 minutes over already. So what we are going to do, families, is give you an 8-minute break for you to be able to figure out what is your next session. I'm also going to give my panel time to have a quick glass of water before we actually get started again at 7:20. And we're going to just go through this panel one more time at 7:20. So thank you very much, panelists, and we're going to all be on mute. We may still try to answer some of the questions that people had posted, but thank you very much, and have a good evening. Good evening. This is like my childhood dream of actually kind of being a producer and a DJ at the same time. So I'm able to play some music and moderate a college fair. And so we are just getting ready to start our second session. And let me just throw my picture up there real quick. And so it is 7:20 and we're going to start our second session. My name is Garrick Ferguson. I'm one of the directors of teaching and learning for the Bellevue School District. I am pleased and excited to be the moderator for this session for our public universities that are in the state of Washington. I want to tell you that this is an excellent opportunity to hear from 5 different universities that are from around our state. And I'm going to be trying to ask some common questions that many of you have, and then it'll just kind of keep us on a theme. And so the format will be is that I'm going to have everybody on the panel introduce themselves, tell a little bit about their university that they're representing and the application process. And then what we'll do is we'll start to go into individual questions. And what we'll try to do is have, I'll try to have whoever's speaking, I'll have their picture up so you'll be able to see that person and they'll be able to tell you a little bit about answering the question from the context of their school. I know this is already your second session for tonight, but just wanted to go over one thing of please just a reminder, you can ask the questions in the upper right-hand portion of the screen, and then you can also turn on the closed captions in the bottom right-hand side. So those are 2 pieces. So what I'd like to do right now is actually introduce our panelists, and I'm going to have Garrick go first, and I'm going to push you to be live right now.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Hi, everybody. My name is Garrick Sherburne. I am an admissions advisor from the University of Washington, Bothell. I use he, him pronouns. UW Bothell is located in Bothell, Washington, shocking. And it's about 25 minutes up from Bellevue. We are one of the 3 University of Washington universities. There's UW Bothell, UW Seattle, and UW Tacoma. So depending on how you want to experience UW can kind of influence which UW is the right fit for you. Our application process, we are located on the Coalition application. It's the only way you can apply as a first-year student. The Coalition platform allows you to fill out an application once and apply to multiple schools with that one application. There's another school in here also on the Coalition. I wonder if you can guess which one it is, but I don't want to give any spoilers. We have 2 different deadlines at UW Bothell. We have early action and regular decision. So early action is November 15th. If you apply by early action, you will receive an admissions decision by the new year. It's non-binding, so you can still apply other places, go other places. It'll just give you early information if you've been admitted or not. And our priority application is January 15th. So important dates to keep in mind. I'm going to pass it over to Grace from Central.
Thanks so much, Garrick. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us for your second session. My name is Grace, and I'm the Regional Admissions Counselor for Central Washington University. I'm regionally located in King County, so I'm over on this side of the mountains with all of you, but Central Washington University is located on the other side of the mountains, just about an hour and a half or so away in the college town of Ellensburg. We're a medium-sized public school with a little over 12,000 students and 130 plus majors. In terms of our application process, we're different in that we're a rolling admission school, so we accept applications year-round. You can start in August when you're starting your senior year, or you can fill one out right before you graduate, just as long as you apply before the quarter starts, essentially. And so we're rolling admission school, accepting at any time, but we do have a priority date, which we encourage you to apply by for scholarship purposes. And that date is March 1st, which is coming up here in a couple of weeks. So that's just a bit about our admissions process. We do offer guaranteed admissions as well with a 3.0 GPA and above. So you can know early on if you're accepted. I will go ahead and hand it off to my colleague, Jacob from Western.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jacob Jones-Polton. I'm an admissions counselor with Western Washington University. Western is located about an hour and a half north from you all, up in Bellingham. So we're a medium-sized public university with about 16,000 students. We are also a rolling admissions university, meaning there's a lot of flexibility for when you can apply. However, our main deadline that we have for folks is January 31st. So yeah, just make sure your application is in by then. But yeah, very much looking forward to answering your questions tonight. Yeah, let me pass it over now to Carmen from Washington State University.
Good evening, everyone. Again, my name is Carmen Garcia. I am the Regional Admissions Counselor for Washington State University. So like Grace, I am on this side of the mountains, although Washington State University is in Pullman, Washington, which is about a 4.5-hour drive to the east side or a 1-hour flight. Pullman, Washington, or Washington State University is in a true college town with a population of 33,000 people. It is a true rural college town. All 4 seasons, as you can see in my background right now, it would be snowing. I don't believe we have snow in Pullman at the moment, but it varies with each winter, all 4 seasons. And we have over 200 programs, so definitely something to look into once you're narrowing down your college list. A little bit about the admissions process. We are not on any other website but our own, so if you are looking to apply, you just go to apply.wsu.edu. We are enrolling admissions as well. Typically, our deadline is January 31st, but this year it has been extended to March 15th, and that's for admissions as well as the scholarship application. We do have assured admission for students who are above a 3 or at or above a 3.6 GPA. So that's definitely something to keep in mind when you're thinking about scholarships and admission. And that is all. I will hand it over to Alicia for the University of Washington. Go Cougs!
Hi, everyone. My name is Alicia Ruff. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm a first-gen Husky alumna and admissions counselor at the University of Washington. UW, as many of you guys already know, is a large public institution. So we have a little over 31,000 undergraduate students on our campus. And we get around 43 to 45,000 applications each year just for undergraduate, which is insane to think about. We also have over 180 different majors that really focuses on providing a rich and robust classroom and student experience. So if you are looking to have access to extensive faculty and research opportunities, peers and alumni groups, then the UW is definitely going to be a right fit. And also for all of our students at the start of your freshman year, you can actually participate in research. If you know what you want to dive deeper into, you will have access to over 600 different study abroad programs, and then of course internships, which is really important to get your foot in the door and solidify all the things that you're learning in the classroom. Our application is on the coalition, so we're a coalition exclusive school like UW-Bothell is. So you can actually get started on your application at any point in your high school career. So if you wanted to get started on that today or before you're a senior, you can definitely do so. And then we are a little bit different than UW-Bothell. We only have a one and only application deadline, which is November 15th of every year. So just keep that in mind. November 15th is when you'll want to submit your application, and then all decisions will be released within March 1st through 15th, so within that notification window. But it's very exciting to meet you all, and we're definitely excited to just dive deeper into the admissions process.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much all of our panelists. And so one of the things that I hope you already heard is that we have some very large universities, being the University of Washington and Washington State, over 30,000 students, and then we have some smaller universities and some medium size. So so families and students, you have to kind of think about what's the right fit for you. So that's where I think every student can find their fit. And so kind of for our panelists, our first question that I have is around the academic strength of the transcript. How important is it? So when you look at an application, and what do you look for when you're looking at a transcript? Who'd like to start with that one?
I can start us again. I'm happy to tackle this question. So when we first start reviewing an application and we're looking at a transcript, there are a lot of different factors that kind of roll around in our minds. When it comes to AP, we love to see AP, IB, college and the high school, running start. We kind of weigh all of these the same because they all have the same impact, that they show us that you're ready for that college rigor. There are different benefits to each one, of course, which we'll kind of talk about later on as the questions go on. But the biggest thing to know between all of us is that, yes, we love to see AP classes, but you shouldn't take it on unless you're ready for that rigor. If you're taking a subject and you're really struggling in a subject and you're debating whether you want to jump into AP or not, it might be not the best decision to hop into AP. You just kind of want to make sure that, again, that you feel confident in your skills in that subject and that you're ready for more. We would hate for you to take a full course load of AP and for you to not be doing so well in them. So we would rather see you thrive in the classes that you're in, and when you're ready, jump into AP. But there are benefits to AP in that we see the AP class, but it's up to you whether you would like to take the AP test or not. If you take the test, great, that's a possibility for you to earn college credit. If not, we don't see that during the admissions process at all. So that's kind of up to you. But we do see the AP class on your transcript.
Just to piggyback off what Grace was talking about there, academic strength is beyond AP also. So like if we're talking IB, if we're talking college and the high school, running start, that is all increased rigor. So I'm sorry, I was looking at an imaginary camera that doesn't exist. Sorry about that. There's all increased rigor. So definitely it's not like we prefer one over the other. But what Grace was saying there with the AP specifically is that you don't have to take the test. Whereas like running start, your grades are permanent when it comes to running start on your college transcript. So just take rigor that is appropriate for you. Yes.
Also, I would like to add, just for the University of Washington, when we're looking at your academics, it's really important to go above the minimum required college academic distribution requirements. Wow, it's a mouthful. It's called CADRs for short. So what that means is just taking that opportunity to go above those minimum requirements. That can be in subjects like math. Our minimum requirement for math is an Algebra 2. So if you can go above that, that'll look great in your overall review. A majority of our successful students who have been admitted to the UW will have pre-calculus or even calculus completed. Another really common one that I see is in world languages. We only require 2 years of world languages in a singular world language. So make sure you're taking, 2 years of Japanese, 2 years of Spanish, or more. So taking that third year to get rid of the undergraduate requirements would be definitely beneficial. Or maybe I even see students take a fourth year or even an AP language. So again, just taking a look at your minimums, going above those minimums while factoring in and having an overall balanced curriculum of regular classes and college prep type coursework as well.
When we are still on this topic of kind of transcripts, I do see there were some questions around GPA. How do you folks look at GPA and the importance of the GPA? What if I take harder classes, I take AP classes, but I don't get A's, I get B's?
Yeah, I'll, oh, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. Oh, I was just going to say, at the end of the day, we're just wanting to see that you are, it's really a balancing act there. Students that are pushing themselves to really, really take more rigorous classes. But if they are going to be more successful in something that's a standard level, we want to see them successful in that. So whatever is really best meeting their needs as far as academically where they're going to be successful, while also also challenging themselves. So there's not exactly a one size fits all kind of situation for that. But the last thing we want to see is a student that feels like they are expected to take only AP classes in order to impress these universities, and then they don't do as well as they could have done if they would have balanced it out with some other classes.
Thank you very much, Jacob. Anyone else from our panel need to add things to the talking about the transcript? Are we ready to move on? Okay, we're moving on. So essay questions, what are you looking for? Who would like, and I don't need to have Jacob, you're on the screen, but you don't have to start, but is there someone else that would like to start about the essay?
I can start on this one if that's cool. So first thing I want to mention is that the essay looks different for each campus here. So I'll pass over to Carmen afterwards, for example. WSU doesn't require an essay, so that's going to be different for us here. But in terms of the UW holistic review process, the essay question is super important. With holistic review, we're looking at multiple factors and making admissions decisions. So we don't have an automatic admit or automatic deny based on GPA alone. And so when we look at your application, there's the academic side. We can see your transcript, we can see what classes you took, we can see what grades you got. But on the essay and the activities log side, that's where we get to know about you as an individual. Who are you? What excites you about college? What are your career goals? And so those are all really wonderful opportunities for you to kind of break in and show us and teach us about who you are as an individual. I love reading the essays. I feel like I really get to understand the student a lot better in the process. The most important thing with the essay is to be authentic. You know, I have read essays before where the person was clearly trying to impress me, I guess, in a way I could say, or they're trying to predict what would sound good that I would like to hear. And that's not the case at all. I really want to know about you. That is why an essay exists, to really showcase and shine who you are. Did the question here, if a student had a lot of help writing the essay, I mean, sometimes I would say it's always beneficial to have someone read your application essay to check for grammar or spelling errors or anything like that. But definitely, you know, throwing in big words that I don't even know, or you know, trying to predict what we're going to like to see on the essay. That's not how that works. Just really write about yourself and tell us about who you are too. Carmen, do you want to talk a little bit about your non-essay experience?
Yeah, so WSU doesn't have initially an essay requirement. There will be times where we will see an application, a student's transcript, and we will see inconsistencies, but potential. So that's when we may ask for an essay, but again, we don't ask that students submit them unless we actually request them. And then when we do request an essay, we also provide a prompt, and we ask students to specifically talk about their grade trends, what they were, what they are, and then how they're turning it around, how they're becoming academically successful now, and how they plan to carry that on at the university level. So it's a little different, but yes, something to keep in mind when you're looking at different schools, making sure that you're jotting down all of their requirements, just because they all have similarities, but there's going to be a little bit of differences here and there.
Thank you, Carmen. I will just say, from being a parent of two Bellevue school districts, children that have now are off in college, I will tell you that they wrote their personal essays, but they also shared them with my wife and I, and we read them and we gave them feedback. But it wasn't like we didn't write their essays. So just so it's helpful for someone else to take a look and listen to students' essays is very different than someone else writing your essay. And that is a place where really the universities get to know who your student is. So then now let's think about, we go from essays to standardized testing, SATs and ACTs. How much emphasis do you folks want to talk about that?
I can take that on as well.
Okay.
Well, as right now, none of the schools require an essay or a test score, so that's really great. We don't foresee it being a requirement in the future. Some are test optional, some are test blind. I want to say UW Seattle is test optional. I'm not sure about the other schools. WSU is test blind, so definitely don't bother sending them to us whatsoever, because we will not consider them. And again, for the most part, we don't see them becoming a requirement again in the future. But if that does change, that'll definitely be communicated to the families and students. But yes, nothing to make important as of right now for your college applications.
Great, thank you very much, Carmen.
If I could add something, Eric, that'd be great. This was said during our last session by Alicia, which I really appreciated. But when it comes to SAT, ACT, even though we're not requiring it this year and for the foreseeable future, this might come into a play if a student is on the wait list or if they are appealing a deny admissions decision. Any type of new documents such as like updated grades or those test scores might weigh in a little bit more then. So even though it's not required, something to consider too.
A quick question that isn't been on the panel, and it wasn't one that we talked about in the last session. Lots of public schools are now trying to do no harm to students as we're in a pandemic. And one of the options that we've offered students is to take a P instead of getting a letter grade of an A through an F or receiving a P for a passing grade. Can you speak to how are your schools kind of thinking about students that will have some P's on their transcripts?
I can.
Oh, sorry. No, Alicia, you go.
Okay, sorry. I can speak for UW Seattle. I'm not quite sure where other schools are at with that process, but we're going to take it for face value. I answer this question every day. I feel like somebody's asking me like, how are you going to look at my P's? And we're legitimately going to look at your P's as pass, which just means it's a pass grade. It doesn't get factored into your GPA at all. And realistically, when we're looking at your senior year coursework after you've been admitted as a student, we just want to see that you did well, that you didn't completely fail out of your classes, that you're taking the classes that you said you're going to take, and you've reported all of your previous coursework and grades correctly as well. So that's basically what we're looking for. So I know this process is going to look differently for each college, so it's always good to check in with those colleges that you're applying to. But at the UW, again, P is going to be looked at as a pass, and it's not going to be included in your GPA.
Excellent, thank you. And I see lots of questions that are coming up about those P grades. Moving over to letters of recommendation. Who should be writing letters of recommendation, and how important are they for your universities?
Letters of recommendation. I don't know. I don't know if anyone here requires them. No, it's a head shakes across the board. No one's going to require a letters of recommendation across the board here. So I don't have much advice on it, unfortunately. If anybody else want to add anything with that?
If I was put on a wait list, does a letter of recommendation help? Like when is a letter helpful?
Yeah, that's a great point. So yes, that actually for UW Bothell I can speak about. Yes, letters of recommendation can come into play when it comes to the waitlist decision. Absolutely. So that would come later in the admissions process. But for your initial application, letters of recommendation are not required. If you are asking someone to write a letter of recommendation, make sure you give the person plenty of time to write a letter of recommendation. Don't go to them and say, hey, I need this tomorrow, because that is stressful for people. So definitely give some time to write those letters so they're quality and do showcase you a little bit. But for the initial admissions process, it's not going to be an important factor for us.
Great.
And to add on that, if you are asked to provide a letter of recommendation, make sure it's from a teacher, from a core subject teacher. We will be asking or would prefer it be from someone that can speak to your academic abilities.
Okay, so my coach might not be the best person, and probably my math or science or social studies teacher would be stronger. Okay, great. Thank you very much. Moving along, extracurricular. How much weight is placed on being involved in leadership, community service, church groups? How important is that? I'm looking at the panel. I got Jacob.
I can talk a little bit about that.
Unmuted, so here we go.
Yeah, I mean, at least at Western, we definitely look at your extracurriculars. We do care about the activities list where you talk about community service or family responsibilities you've had, or maybe you've been employed. Those things definitely play a role. I will always say, as a university, the academics is, and the students' experience, what they're bringing to campus, those are always at the front of our list there. But the activities for sure play a role, and they especially make a big difference down the road when we're starting to review for scholarships.
Any other comments around extracurricular?
Obviously, it goes without said for kind of everything about COVID right now, but COVID, it definitely had implications for extracurriculars, and they will have implications for extracurriculars for a long time coming. So just know if you're not able to take or do a lot of extracurriculars because of the restriction of COVID, that is okay. We're not going to hold that against you. And we're also not going to, say, oh, well, this person was able to still accomplish a lot. What's your story? Nothing like that. We never compare applications to one another. So definitely don't worry about that. Think about extracurriculars, as Jacob said, beyond school, but just know that it's okay if you don't have a lot because of what's happening in our environment right now.
And so and actually there was just a question that just came in about that. So because of a pandemic and not being able to be out and about, you're not going to penalize a student for having less involvement out of school.
Yeah, absolutely. No penalization against anybody on any part of the application because of COVID. I mean, we are all affected by COVID in one way or another. So we totally understand that that is going to be something that is affecting applications, in this upcoming year, and then probably for a couple of years from now still. So we're ready for that. We understand.
Great. How is diversity valued in the applicant pool in the admissions process? We had Jacob do it first and Alicia was second. So I'm going to actually put Alicia up first this time.
Okay. I think that is the beauty of holistic review. We have students from all different types of backgrounds, whether it be socioeconomic, ethnic backgrounds. I mean, there are so many different stories out there, and we want to hear about all of them. We definitely don't prioritize one story over the other, so we genuinely just want to learn more about you, and you'll find that across most universities that you're applying to. So this is the reason why it's really important to share your individual story, share your own lived reality, especially in that personal statement. And if the school requires a short response statement like UW does, then tell us a little bit more there, and then utilize those additional comments section. Give us the full picture of aspects of your life that we can't necessarily tell by just looking at your grades and your GPA or your academics and your GPA. So diversity is really valued in all sectors. So I think it's just really important, like Garrick said, is to be true to who you are and tell us more about your authentic self in your writing.
Thank you very much. Did anyone have anything to add to that, or I think Alicia did a nice job. We just have time for a couple more questions. We are 2 minutes left. So we have Running Start. How is Running Start viewed? And actually, I think one of you actually started to talk a little bit about Running Start at the beginning. So I'm going to actually put Carmen back up there to talk just a little bit about Running Start.
Yeah, so it was mentioned earlier that Running Start, AP, IB, across the board, we all see them as a great way for students to challenge themselves academically, and we definitely notice them. There isn't a preference over the other. It really just depends on your style of learning. Some students prefer to stay in the high school and just take those AP courses. Some students do better at those community colleges and in that college environment. So it really just depends, or college in the high school. So it really just depends on the student. But with Running Start specifically, it's something that you want to keep in mind that they are permanent grades versus with AP, you don't have to send us your AP test. But we will see obviously your AP grade. But with Running Start, if you did good or bad, we're going to see it, and it is going to be a permanent grade on your college transcript. So it's definitely something to keep in mind when you are deciding which course or which style to take. And I think I don't know if it was in this session or in the last session, but Grace did point out that for out-of-state students or students applying to schools out of state, Running Start might be more beneficial for in-state schools, just because all public schools do have agreements with the local community colleges, whereas out-of-state schools might not have those same agreements. So it's definitely something to keep in mind. If you are thinking of applying to schools out of state, maybe AP might be your best route.
Thank you very much, Carmen. Last question. Is there something surprising to students about your admissions process? Or is there some advice that you think would be helpful as these families go through the process? We didn't get to that question in the first panel.
I know, it's a great question. I always like to emphasize that, you know, I've worked with all of these individuals in this room here, and I can confidently say, like, they're all incredible and they all represent incredible schools. There's really no such bad thing as a bad university. The only thing that can make a university experience not good for somebody if it's not the right fit. So definitely as a student, it is our job to tell you what resources we have and how to apply, but it is your job to decide which college is going to be the right fit for you in terms of what you want to study, how you want to study, where you want to be located, what kind of clubs you want to participate in. That is all on you to make those decisions. We can't decide for you. So yes, I would love every single person here to come to UW-Bothell, but I would also be upset if people came here because they thought it was the best thing to do when they realized there was better opportunity somewhere else. So just know that there's no right or wrong answer in the college search process. Determining what you want out of the college experience is the most important thing you can do right now, because that will really help guide your search and really help you make the correct decision for you.
Thank you very much, Garrick. I would actually say in closing, what I think, and when I think about all schools and I think about the process, and each university has slightly different questions that they may ask. What is super important is to make sure when the student is actually filling out the application, they've read the question and they make sure the answer doesn't have another university's name in their response, because that will totally be, oh my gosh, this kid did a cut and paste. So make sure you take your time, and when you're answering the question, make sure that it's the question and you've pasted the right information in. You can use lots of prompts in different applications, but I would tell you that it's super important to make sure that you're not addressing or naming another university in a different school's application. So it is 7:52. I want to thank you very much for attending our second session. We are going to give you about 7 minutes to get to your third session for the evening. This is when I'm going to give my panel time to take a quick water break. We'll still be looking at some of the questions that are in the Q&A, and we will try to answer those, but just want to thank you for joining us tonight. And so our next session will start at 8 p.m. So thank you. Okay, it is 8 o'clock and we are ready for our third session. My name is Garrick Ferguson and I am a Director of Teaching and Learning for the Bellevue School District, and it's my honor to be hosting the panel of our public universities in the state of Washington. What we will do this evening is we will do a brief introduction, and I will have each representative from each university introduce themselves, share a little bit about their school, as well as how the application process works at their university. Also, be sure to listen for when they're talking about how many students are enrolled in their school, when is their application deadline, what kind of application are they looking for. Those are all really important factors when we're thinking about the application process. And then what we'll do is we'll be going through a panel of questions. But what will happen is if you actually have a specific question, you can put it in the Q&A. What we will do is we will try to answer those as they fit into the different topics that we're going to be talking about. And our goal is to kind of go through all of those this evening. If you ask specific questions pertaining to your own situation, we probably won't be answering those. But if it's more broad, that it would be able to be that we'd be able to answer for all the people that are attending right now. That will be probably one that we'll answer quickly. So without further ado, what I would like to do is have Garrick, and I need to get his picture up there, to introduce himself.
Yes, hello everybody. My name is Garrick Sherburne. I am from the University of Washington, Bothell. I use he, him, his pronouns. University of Washington, Bothell is one of the three universities of Washington in the greater Seattle area. We have UW Bothell, UW Seattle, and UW Tacoma. We are on the smaller size of public universities. We're about 6,000 students strong. We are also hosted on the Coalition application. It's an application platform where you can fill out the application once and apply to multiple schools with it. And we have two different deadlines, which is sometimes confusing for people. So we have an early action deadline in November 15th. Early action just means if you apply early, you get an admissions decision early. That decision is non-binding though, so you can still apply other places, go other places. And then our general priority application deadline is January 15th. Oh my gosh, my brain. So there's all that. I'm so excited to chat with you. I'm gonna pass it over to Grace from Central.
Thanks, Garrett. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us for the third and final session of the evening. We're making it. My name is Grace, and I'm a regional admissions counselor for Central Washington University. I am actually located on this side of the mountains in King County, even though the university is located on the east side of the mountains, just about an hour and a half or so away from the Bellevue area in Ellensburg, which is a very rural college town. In terms of the university, we're a medium-sized school with a little over 12,000 students, so not too large, not too small, just right. And we are a rolling admission school, so that means that you can apply anytime during your senior year, essentially before the quarter starts. But we do have a priority date of March 1st every year, so we encourage students to apply by then for scholarship purposes and other benefits as well. We do have our own application on our website, so we're not a part of the coalition or the common application or anything like that. You can just apply directly on our website, and we do offer guaranteed admission for students with a 3.0 GPA or higher. With that, I will pass it off to my colleague Jacob from Western.
All right, hello everybody. My name is Jacob Jones Polton. I'm an admissions counselor with Western Washington University. Western is located just up the road, about an hour and a half north, up in Bellingham. So yeah, we are a medium-sized public university, it's around 16,000 students, about 170 majors, give or take. And we are also a rolling admissions university, meaning that we are accepting applications throughout the year. But our main deadline for students wanting to come in for the fall, the one to pay most attention to is January 31st. So we review applications holistically, as all these universities do here. Yeah, just really excited to answer your questions this evening. With that, I will pass it over to Carmen with Washington State University.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. Again, my name is Carmen Garcia. I am the Regional Admissions Counselor for Washington State University Pullman. Pullman is on the east side of the mountains, although I am on the west side. The Washington State University is about 4.5-hour drive to 1-hour flight from Seattle, Bellevue. It is in a true college town with a more medium to larger size population. The student population is about 21,000. And again, we are in a small little rural college town. So something to think about when you're thinking of an environment that you thrive in, if that's something that you're interested in. We do get all 4 seasons. Typically it is snowing, hence my background. And as far as the admissions application, we are not on any other outside organizations. If you want to apply to WSU, you do so directly on our website at apply.wsu.edu. Our deadline is typically January 31st, but this year we have extended it to March 15th. We also have assured admission with students with a 3.6 GPA cumulative, and that's something to keep in mind also with merit-based scholarships. Our scholarships start at a 3.6 GPA, so yeah. And certainly last but not least, I'll pass it on to Alicia with the University of Washington, Seattle. Go Cougs!
Hi, everyone. My name is Alicia Ruff. I use she, her pronouns, and I am a first-gen Husky alumna and admissions counselor for the University of Washington. As many of you guys already know, UW is just right in your backyard in the city of Seattle. We are a large public institution, so we have a little over 31,000 undergraduates. It's insane. I don't even want to go into the numbers with our graduates as well. And we receive around 43 to 45,000 applications each year just within that freshman and transfer pool. So we have over 180 different majors that really focus on providing a rich and robust student and classroom experience. So if you want access to an extensive network of just top faculty, researchers, peers, and alumni, you'll definitely have those available to you. And then, of course, if you are interested in doing research, doing a study abroad program out of the 600 that we have, maybe even doing an internship, you'll definitely have access to those resources as soon as your first year on campus. The University of Washington, like the University of Washington Bothell, is a coalition exclusive school. So that means we house our one and only application on the coalition platform. So you can actually get started on your application pretty much at any time, and you can add multiple schools on there. So if you want to apply to our campus, if you want to apply to UW Bothell, you can do so right in one application. We do look at applications holistically once we receive them, and we're going to go more in depth about what that holistic review process looks like for each of our campuses a little bit later. But a thing to remember is, unlike UW Bothell, the University of Washington, our campus, we only have a one and only application deadline, and that is November 15th. So on September 1st, that is when our application will open up. That's September 1st of your senior year. And then you have until November 15th to submit your application. We do not participate in any type of early action or early deadlines. And then every single student who has applied will receive their decision sometime between March 1st and March 15th. So everyone will get their decision by that date. But I'll pass it off back to Eric, and we can go ahead and get started.
So is your application deadline one of the earliest in the, well, it's absolutely earliest in the state, but is it early nationwide?
Our deadline definitely aligns with a lot of the early deadlines. So I think there's some confusion, like our students are like, oh, you guys have an early deadline or early action, and it's just the one and only deadline. So yeah. If you are applying to early action schools, then our deadline aligns with that. So yes, okay. We are a little bit earlier.
You are earlier than some schools. Okay.
Yes.
And I did have somebody on the panel that had asked, or somebody out in the audience asked a question, which kind of feeds in a little bit to the strength of the transcript. Can you talk a little bit about what does a holistic review actually mean? And so I know you've said it a couple times. So what does holistic review mean to you at the University of Washington?
Sure. So for the holistic review, we're going to be looking at two factors or groupings or pillars, whatever you want to call it. The first and leading factor is going to be your academic preparation and performance. So we'll look at your overall rigor of your curriculum. We'll look at your GPA, the types of classes you're taking, whether or not you're meeting minimum college academic distribution requirements, which we call CADRs. So all of that kind of factors in together. Like many universities on this panel, we are looking at an unweighted GPA. And I think that's important to note because in our review process, while we're looking at the strength of your overall curriculum to see if you're taking any type of college preparatory classes like AP, IB, Running Start, college and high school, maybe even honors classes, those all kind of get factored in and really add to the rigor of your overall curriculum. And we don't have a preference over which college prep courses you decide to take. We look at it all the same. So that's going to be your academic preparation and performance. And the secondary part of that holistic review is everything outside of the classroom that you achieved, your personal characteristics, your achievements, all of that gets factored in, and they're both important in that review. So I know there was a question previous asking if there's like a cutoff. Are we just looking at GPAs first? And the answer is no. We're looking at each part of that holistic review and factoring that into our overall admissions decision.
Excellent, thank you. Is there someone else on the panel that wants to talk a little bit about the strength of the transcript, AP versus core classes?
Yeah, I could talk a little bit about that real quickly. Yeah, so the really important thing with AP versus core classes is we really want to see that you're excelling first and foremost in those core classes. We also want to see that you are pushing yourself academically, that you are taking the rigorous options that are available to you. But really, I say this with also saying that, you know, and I'm sure my colleagues here agree that we don't want students taking AP classes if they're not going to succeed in those classes. So, you know, it's great to push yourself, take a few AP classes if you can, but really do what is really in your best academic interest. So, you know, what we don't want to see is a student who feels pressured to only take AP because they want to impress the universities, and then they don't do as well as they could have done if they would have kind of balanced it out with some of the other classes that were available to them. So, so really just figure out what the right level is for you and go and succeed in that. Yeah, go and succeed with what really fits your academic level.
Thank you very much, Jacob. And so one piece that I know on other panels, we've had questions that came up. So students that take an AP class, if I do well in the class, I get an A in the class, but then when I take the AP test, I really bomb it. Will universities see my AP test score, or do you just see my grade on my transcript?
No, we will just see your grade on your transcript unless you, for some reason, intend to send that not so great test score. Yes, so it's optional to send in your test scores, and if you didn't do great, then obviously you don't have to send it in, and we don't think any other way if you decide not to. We will just only consider your grade in the class.
Thank you very much, Carmen. And then the last question that we had also was many schools, K-12 schools are allowing students to receive a P for passing a class instead of getting a letter grade. How are universities kind of looking at students that receive a P?
I can respond to that. We are taking Ps at face value. So a lot of our universities are trying to be as flexible and accommodating as we can with this past year of the pandemic. And so we will take it as it is. It won't count towards your GPA. However, we will see as a past class. Earlier last session, we actually had a couple of students asking questions about the P and whether you should take the P or whether you should take a B grade. It really depends on you and what you want. For some students, a B grade would boost their GPA. And so whereas others are a little concerned it might drop down their GPA. So it kind of really depends, but we will take it, and it does count towards your Cater count, which Alicia kind of talked about earlier. So good to go.
Thank you very much. And now we're going to go to the next question, or next topic area is essays. What are you looking for when people have essays? Do you want to continue on that, Grace, because I have you up on the screen?
Yeah, sure. I can actually answer the second part of that because I know that in other sessions, Wazoo usually answered for this, but CW and Wazoo are really similar in that we don't actually require students to write an essay. Instead, we kind of fall more into the short answer section where we have a personal statement is what we call it, but really it's 3 short questions that we're hoping students answer. In general, I can say for the most part, whether it's a short answer or an essay, we really just want to hear more about you as a student. We get so much information from your transcript, from back then when test scores were set in test scores, right? We get all this information about your academic life and who you are as an academic, but we don't get a lot of space to learn who you are as a student, what your passions are, why you want to go to our university, what you want to do, what you want to gain from us. So this is the space for you to show a bit more of your personality and tell us who you are. This can be a really big deal, and it is a big deal, I would say, for most of us, because this could be a make or break sometimes. This really can help you a lot. So I usually encourage students to advocate for yourself and share as much as you can in those spaces, whether it's a comment section, the essay section, a short answer section, anywhere where we give you space to type, but don't type just to type, type with intent. So type with purpose, yeah.
Garrick, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, so as Grace had mentioned, it's different from school to school depending on if they require essay or require not. But as Alicia had mentioned earlier, kind of holistic view is those 2 pieces. It's the academic side, which we can see on the transcript, and the rigor curriculum, the grades. But the personal side is what we can't see on the transcript. So the personal side is that personal statement, that activities log. That's your chance to kind of tell us about who you are as an individual and really showcase why college. And so it's a really great opportunity. It is important to obviously have people review your essays to help look for grammar or for spelling errors, but it's also not important to have someone write your essay for you, if that makes sense. So that's kind of the distinction between the essay writing piece. And the last thing I will say, my mind just disappeared. I had it for a second, but I lost it. Oh, don't tell me. Essay writing. Write authentically. Don't write things that you think are going to be impressive to us. As admissions advisors, we want to learn about you as a student. So don't write things that you think sound good, or use big words that you think sound fancy, because sometimes I don't even know what those words mean. So just, write authentically, write about yourself in that process.
Thank you very much. Let's actually go and move on. And our question is around SAT and ACT. How much emphasis is placed on these in the admission process?
So I can take that on. I will say across the board, it does not place any weight in the decision this year. We are all either test optional or test blind. If you are planning to apply to all of our schools, just make sure to check which ones are test optional, which ones are test blind. So that way, if you do have intention of possibly sending a test score, that it will be reviewed. But yes, it does not is not a deal breaker or a decision maker as far as admissions, and we don't see it being one anytime soon.
And then Alicia, I wanted to you had made a statement in the last session around SAT and ACT. What is your prediction for the future?
Yeah, I mean, I don't foresee our SAT or ACT requirement changing, at least in the near future, in the next couple of years. And this is probably going to be the case for most universities that you're applying to. You know, it's always good to check in with the universities that you're interested in to see what their test policy is. At the UW, we are considered test optional. However, we are not going to actually be looking at or be able to see what your test scores are if you chose to submit them. So they're not going to even be a factor in the holistic review process. We're going to make a decision based off the holistic review without those test scores of who gets admitted, waitlisted, and denied. Now, where we might factor that in is if you were waitlisted, then we might take a look and see if you submitted scores and use that to make a decision of whether or not we admit you. Some universities will ask for that score information if it's available. Like, don't feel like you need to go out of your way and take a test. I just want to really emphasize that because we'd rather you be safe than stress about taking an SAT or ACT because it's really not going to affect a huge population of students. But, you know, if you want to submit them, great. Again, just understand what the school's policies are. Know that it's not going to be a huge factor for a majority of students, if not, or universities, if not any. And you should be good to go.
Thank you very much. Moving on to letters of recommendation. I forget who was our person that wanted to talk about those.
I can jump on that one just real quickly across the board. None of us require letters of recommendation for the admissions process. There's a few distinctions with scholarships, which someone else can talk about in a second. But for letters of recommendation for general admission, it's not going to be something that we utilize in the process, so don't worry about it. It might come into play similar to the test scores in the last question. If you're on the wait list, letters of recommendation can benefit you, but that definitely takes place later in the admissions process, not the initial application. The last thing I'll say about letters of recommendation is that if you are asking someone to write a letter of recommendation, make sure you give them some time. Don't ask them, hey, I need this in 12 hours. Can you write this for me? Because it's not going to be a good letter. So definitely give them plenty of time to write a solid letter for you. Carmen, do you want to talk about who should be writing that letter in the scholarship process?
Yes. So if for whatever reason, whether it be scholarship or the school does request an essay, a letter of recommendation, just because sometimes WCU might request one, but again, it's not an initial requirement. We do ask that it be from a core class teacher or just a teacher in general, just because we want a recommendation from someone who can speak to your academic abilities.
Great, thank you very much. Moving right along. Extracurricular. How much weight does leadership activities, community service carry in the admissions process?
I can answer this one again. Clearly we're still in a pandemic, and leadership and extracurricular opportunities are really, really different than how they traditionally are. So I think we're all on the same page here as far as just taking that into account, that people are not necessarily going to be participating in the same ways that they used to be, if pre-pandemic. At least at Western, we definitely do look at activities though, and the ways that people are involved in different ways. So whether that is a club you're a part of, or community service of some sort, or if you are having family responsibilities or working, or just have hobbies that you are getting out there and sharing with others in a safe way or on your own, we're definitely just looking at how are you showing up for the things that you care about. So that stuff plays a role in the admissions process, of course, but I think it plays perhaps an even stronger role later on when we're talking about scholarships and reviewing for those.
Thank you very much. I think we also talked a little bit about this in the last session. What if we don't have a lot of those options right now because of COVID?
Yeah, I can expand on that a little bit more. When it comes to COVID, the effects of that is obviously happening right now, but the effects will be happening for the next many years to come. And so the restrictions on extracurricular activities will be smaller, which is okay. We're not going to hold that against you ever. And at the same token, if someone is able to go participate in a lot more activities than others, we're never going to compare applications to one another and be like, well, that person was able to do 10 activities, you only did 2. What is that about? That will never come into the decision process. We never put applications side by side to begin with. So just know that we totally recognize that the pandemic will have effects and extracurriculars might be small, but just, don't restrict to just school. Obviously, school activities are important, but if you have home responsibilities, if you're working part-time, whatever, those are all extracurriculars you can talk about.
I just wanted to add real quick. So a question came in the Q&A, which I really love.
Yeah, I was going to ask that back to you guys. So that's, I wanted everybody to see it and answer it.
Yes. So the question was, how do you present all your achievements without sounding braggy? Y'all, it is slim pickings out there. We're in the middle of COVID. And like Garrick was saying, this is really going to be the time for quality over quantity. So brag about yourself. Tell us about what you learned in your activities. We genuinely want to know more. So unless you're boasting about saying, I'm the best in this and I'm the best in that, I mean, you can really turn that around and say, hey, this is what I've achieved in this activity. You don't necessarily need to tell us more about the activity itself, but just tell us what you achieved. What did you accomplish? If you want to talk about a challenge real quick, say this was a challenge, but I, was able to commit to this or achieve this, and talk about it. Tell us the facts. We want to hear more. So, I mean, don't feel like you're tooting your own horn is what I'm trying to say. Like, we genuinely want to know more and what your achievements are, because it's exciting. You should tell us more about that.
And I think I heard one of you speak last year when we were at Sammamish High School as a panelist, and I think you were like, you're getting to read an application for somebody that you've never met. And so what is it that's going to make you feel like, wow, this would be a great person to have at our university? And so you need to kind of toot your horn enough so that they will be able to say, oh, I get a really good picture academically as well as all well-rounded about what the student could offer. And I think it would be great to be able to have them at our school too. So, but when you're reading the application, they don't know who that student is. They're just reading the information that's on the paper. So we only have a few minutes left, and we're going to talk about how is the diversity valued in the applicant pool for the application process. Who would like to? Was there anybody that'd like to kind of go for that one? I'll put the counselor Carrie. No, I wasn't going to put her on the spot, but
I mean, I can speak to it. I mentioned this before, and I think this is the reason why most universities have the holistic review process. When it comes to diversity, we are looking for students from all different types of backgrounds who are really going to add to the value on our campus. And those can be students that have had really interesting circumstances in their family growing up, and they've explained that in their application. That could be maybe a family history that you wanted to share, or a community that you're a part of. Whatever that experience is, we want to hear more about it. And I think Garrick really did a great job of explaining this. I mean, that's why it's so important to be authentic to yourself, authentic to your own experiences, and really articulate that and tell us more about that whole story in your writing sections and even additional comment section. That way we can really take that into consideration when we're reviewing your applications. We're not going to be able to tell how diverse you are or what kind of background you come from or what your experiences are just by looking at your academics. So really, really, the more information you can share with us, whether it's a good experience or whether it was a challenging experience, will definitely add to us being able to review and figure out, who you are. Diversity is a huge part of the admissions process, so don't be afraid to share your story.
I'm actually going to just jump to the last question that will be Is there something surprising to students about your admissions process? Is there some advice that you'd like to give to students when they're thinking about going through this in the next couple of years?
I think one thing, at least that I think surprises a lot of folks that I've connected with over the years in admissions is that just we are super accessible. Like, we want to talk to you. We want to hear your story, to hear what you're interested in, and ultimately help you discover if our university is the best possible fit for you. Because you know, there are a lot of really awesome options here in Washington State, and you know, we really want to be able to help you in your journey toward finding a place where you're going to thrive, where you're going to be able to, you know, find a home away from home for you. So yeah, don't be shy about asking us questions, no matter how small they may seem. You know, they're all important in helping you find somewhere that you're going to really become the person you want to become in the future.
Jacob, thank you very much for that. That was excellent and a wonderful way to kind of put a cap on this session. I'd like to thank all the people that have attended, and I'd also like to absolutely thank our panelists for spending an evening with us and being able to share tips and tricks about the application process, and just like to thank you all and hope you all have a good evening. So thank you very much and good night.